How come my special items are in your box?
How come we look different from what we did like 2 seconds ago?
Right.
My Deadpool hoodie gives me breaking the fourth wall powers.
What are you doing? Weren't you just wearing that a second ago?
Well, no. And you would know that if you were wearing your...
My hat of detecting? Indubitably.
Blade of the Seven Seraphim, forged at the dawn of the world, fit for the mightiest of heaven's host.
Oh yeah, I remember that thing. How much did that guy at the con charge you for it?
Too much and not enough at the same time. Dude, is that what I think it is? Dude, I told you to get rid of that years ago.
Alright, dude, number one, magic blade. That is so thirsty for the blood of my enemies.
Fact.
Right. And number two, I literally cannot get rid of it.
Oh, that's right. Curse.
Mm-hmm. What's wrong? Is it heavy? Do you need a hand?
No. I need a glove.
No. It can't be. I thought it was lost in Video Armageddon.
The very same. It's so bad.
The plasmic no. The neutronic nail no.
Just call it what it is.
The sonic screwdriver.
Where'd you even get that from?
It's not where I got it from, Jake, but from who. Oh, check it. The chainmail bag of gaming containing the servitors of Discord.
Those are just dice.
Well, yeah, but the bag is magic. It can hold almost anything.
Wait, what can the bag do?
You're not even listening to me. Why am I gonna sit here and talk to you if you're not even gonna listen to me? So where's your last item?
Right here.
Jake, I don't think Pinhead's the kind of ally we need for this one.
No, this is the Rubik's Cube.
The Rubik's Cube?
The Rubik's Cube.
What does it do?
It makes me feel pretty good when I solve it. Alright, so I'll just equip this and...
What's wrong?
I can't equip it. I have another item in here. These Iron Man 3 movie tickets.
We'll just drop them.
I
What are you doing?
Get rid of them!
Those are story items. You can't get rid of them until you start the quest.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to go watch Iron Man 3 and damn the consequences. Welcome to Jake and Trev Review Everything. I'm Jake.
And I'm Trev.
What's wrong, buddy?
To put it simply, Iron Man 3 is probably the worst Marvel movie.
Lesson number 1. Heroes. There is no such thing.
It was a total disappointment. Following Iron Man 2, there was a lot of concern over the direction of the movies. And I really was hoping that Shane Black was going to amp things up a notch where Jon Favreau couldn't.
Doing a film like this, there's a feeling sort of jumping on a train that's already been moving. You know, these people have been down this pike before. They've made other Iron Man movies.
I'm a pretty big fan of some of his movies, particularly Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. As I mentioned in the trailer roundup, Shane Black has worked with Robert Downey Jr. before, so I was hoping for something spectacular, and I got, I don't know what it would be, I guess the opposite of spectacular.
Bamboozled.
Hey, look, those things, they're hard to look at sometimes.
I think that you're going to see it, so I'm not going to warn you not to see it. But I can't recommend it, and also if you are going to see it, which you probably are, that you need to know that this isn't really an Iron Man movie.
Surprise, motherfucker!
There were some people when we got out of the theater that were like, this was awesome, but I think that's really because there is so much adrenaline in this movie that it's an action movie. Shane Black is known for action movies.
You go first, I'm really Joe for this. You go first, I'll cover you.
As you can tell, Jake and I are pretty bummed out about this, and the truth is that there are only two emotions that Jake and I can really feel following watching this movie, and one is sadness and the other is anger.
So if you don't want this movie spoiled for you, we understand. We're not going to hold you over the coals over it. It's understandable. So go see the movie. If you're going to, you're going to see this movie. If you don't want this spoiled, spoiler alert. There it is. It's a little bummed out this week.
This is a bummer, man. That's a bummer.
One of the biggest problems with this movie is that characters are not acting like themselves.
What makes you say that?
Pepper Potts is not herself at all.
I have to protect the one thing that I can't live without. That's you.
I understand that during production, Robert Downey Jr. had some issues with this. He felt that Gwyneth Paltrow in the previous movies kind of got the shaft in being the damsel in distress.
Robert was really interested in having Pepper do more in this movie.
And so she deserved to kind of get out there and kick some ass.
Time to hit the button!
Which is fine if we weren't talking about Pepper Potts.
Have you been drinking?
The fact is, Marvel has a whole stable of kick-ass female characters. Tons and tons. It's just kind of sad to see them have to try to force these characteristics on Pepper and put her in a situation where she has to sort of play the heroine.
In this movie, Tony Stark's armor comes to him when he calls it. That's the new addition to the Tony Stark Iron Man armor. That's it.
I think what's cool is that there is subdermal implants into which you can call various parts of the suit.
So he calls it over to himself, but what you think is going to be himself, and it ends up on Pepper Potts.
I got you.
It's not only distressing because there are other kick-ass female characters, but that her character is more cerebral. She is the counterpoint to Tony Stark's outlandishness.
Where'd you get that dress?
It was a birthday present from you, actually.
I got great taste.
The idea that she has to kick ass to be kick-ass is ridiculous.
Right. Another mainstay of the Iron Man franchise, of course, is James Rhodes. Part of the problem with this is, number one, we almost forgot to talk about him at all.
The relationship between Tony and Rhodey is deepening.
A hallmark of his character in the first two movies was his conflict between loyalty to the government and loyalty to Tony.
As he does not operate within any definable branch of government, Iron Man presents a potential threat to the security of both the nation and to her interests.
In this movie, it just wasn't there at all. In this movie, of course, he's now the Iron Patriot and not War Machine, because War Machine's not very PC, it doesn't play well with test audiences. Part of the thing that made the Iron Patriot suit so sweet is that it was all the story that was wrapped up in the comics to get to that point. There's no story-based payoff now that leads to this. It just is.
He is the buddy cop to Iron Man's buddy cop.
We really wanted Rhodey to be able to match Tony in his bravado and his wit.
In fact, it's kind of interesting because while Pepper is elevated from being a damsel in distress, at one point Rhodey finds himself sort of as the damsel in distress. And then once he learns that Tony, who was also captured, has freed himself, then he's like, oh, okay, now I can get free. And then he frees himself. Like, he was just waiting for Tony to not also be into... Like, I don't understand. Like, what was he waiting for?
Backup, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, so as soon as...
Somebody to whip around one-liners with?
You're not gonna make it.
I'm gonna make it.
You know, there's not enough room.
You were right, Yeah, there wasn't enough room.
Which brings us to Tony Stark and Iron Man, who... They're kind of separate characters in this movie, almost. In the first movie, Tony Stark gets kidnapped, and he has to...
In a cave with a box of scraps!
Create the Iron Man suit, which spurs the whole Iron Man thing on. He uses his ingenuity, he uses what he already knows about super science, and his ability above all other engineers on the planet, apparently, to make these kinds of things.
You made your father proud!
In the second movie, he realizes that he does not have all of the answers himself and has to look to the past, his father, to find the answers to the thing that's killing him.
Dead for almost 20 years. Still taking me to school.
Which is the palladium in his chest. Eventually he finds out that S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of gives him a push in the right direction.
I've tried every combination, every permutation of every known element.
I'm here to tell you, you haven't tried them all.
And he figures it out on his own. It's very cerebral. Both movies have a lot to do with Tony's ability to create things and deduce things.
What does that look like to you, Jarvis? Not unlike an atom.
And in this movie, he falls kind of short on that.
The great thing about Iron Man 3 is Tony's personal journey and the journey of his technology are, I think, second to none.
It's important in any story for there to be room for character growth. In the first one, he learned that he had an obligation, that he can't just, be a jet-setting playboy industrialist who's arming the world to kill each other.
I came to realize that I have more to offer this world than just making things that blow up.
He had to be responsible. In Iron Man 2, he learned not only to rely on other people, but, to go back to his roots. And, there were lessons to be learned.
I got a new ticker. I'm trying to do right by Pepper.
And in this one, the central conflict that he has to face seems to be, how can I succeed without my Iron Man suit? A more accurate title would have been Tony Stark, Man of Action.
He does not defensively use his weapons. In the second movie, he has a congressional hearing where people are saying that he has a weapon. And he says, no, I don't have a weapon. I have a defensive tool. In fact, there's a line in the movie that I believe Justin Hammer says,
Anthony Stark has created a sword with untold possibilities, and yet he insists it's a shield.
In this movie, he pins a guy against a wall and uses the unibeam to blast a hole completely through him and then throws off a one-liner.
Yeah! Stick around.
That's not how Iron Man works. Not in the movies, at least. Right. And not in most comic books either.
Right.
And the other big thing about the Iron Man suit is that the way it's shot and the way it's presented. One of the big problems is in the first two movies, you have that admiration for the Iron Man suit that Jon Favreau showcases throughout all of them. It's big, it's bulky, you can feel the weight of it, you can hear the clanks. The shots are very close. In the first movie, the suit is attached to him by the legs, and then the chest piece and the arms and the helmet, and it's essentially just those 6 pieces. In this movie, it is broken down into smaller pieces so that it's more feasible for it to be remotely attached to his body, but then you lose most of that kind of visual and audio heft of it. So it falls apart a lot. He just kind of pops in and out of it at will, so it's not really... That was another thing about the Iron Man suit, was that he's kind of in there. Mm-hmm. You can't just throw it off like a towel or something.
It's like a suit of armor. He's like the knights of old, Right. It's something that it's an ordeal to get into and out of.
These are heavy. Yeah, heavy metal.
And it just makes it look like origami when it folds up around him. It gives it a really chintzy, papery, light feel.
Yeah, in some movies, or in the previous movies, you see him get hit with a tank shell. And with, another giant robot. And, he gets knocked back and stays on his feet.
You hear that clank.
Right. And in this movie, at one point, the Iron Man suit gets hit by a truck and falls into 1,000 pieces.
And to show that Iron Man is also still not upgrading properly, in the first movie, it's used the idea that Ivan Vankov has that you know, the whiplash, and he's doing all these things, and Iron Man's still working on a better material that can power up his suit.
Congratulations, sir. You have created a new element.
He kind of evolves in that way in the suit. He evolves as a person, and his suit evolves as well. So
Right.
Iron Man evolves. In this movie, he doesn't get much farther than that. And then when he is faced with an enemy that can literally melt his armor, he never addresses that as a problem.
Worst things have happened. I think we're going to be fine.
You know, you have, we'll call them design or engineer problems. In the first movie, one of the problems he found is that when he went too high in the atmosphere, his suit froze up.
Sir, there is a potentially fatal buildup of ice occurring.
So that was something he had to design a way to fix it. And two, again, with the power supply problem, he had to come up with and engineer a way to fix it.
Sir, the reactor has accepted the modified core.
In this one, his suits are not durable enough to stand up to the attacks of his enemies. And the way that he has apparently engineered a way around this is either to A, make himself more vulnerable by not having a suit on at all, or B, just move from suit to suit. Like his solution is,
Like
I have so many
disposable.
suits that I can just put on another one as soon as you destroy this one, dude.
Yeah, they're just flying around. He's jumping into one that gets destroyed, jumps into another that gets destroyed. They're one use only. Instead of being this massive, powerful suit that commands respect and attention.
Where once it was a mighty thermos, now it's like a solo cup. It's
Yeah.
just...
just toss them out. All of the suits that come in the third act are all different shapes and sizes and colors, and they look like they have different functions, and that's very, very unique, but it's really used almost to its detriment because you don't really get more than a couple seconds for each suit to see the differences, and they all just kind of blend together.
Yeah, and by having some 30-odd armors flying around in the air, it kind of detracts from the specialness of the Iron Man suit.
You said nobody else would possess this technology for 20 years?
We understand that Iron Man has gone through all sorts of suits. Even in the comic books, he's got way more than 30 types of armor.
Mm-hmm.
But he never went out and paraded them all at once.
And now for me, probably one of the biggest disappointments of the movie, the Mandarin. Alright, I'm gonna warn you one last time, because this is a pretty big twist. The Mandarin's not the bad guy. It's a fucking lie. In fact, he is, within the continuity of the movie, an actor who has been paid to portray this figure.
What are we waiting for?
And they broadcast all this, and the whole world thinks he's this terrorist mastermind. He's not. Not only did they make him not the super intimidating and incredibly tough Mandarin, they also made him a truly pathetic human being. The big villain of the movie is Adric Killian, played by Guy Pearce, who I always love seeing in a movie.
And he does play his role very well, to his credit. And
he's actually one of the best characters in the movie, perhaps because we don't have any expectations set up for him from previous movies.
Let's not. I just want to take a break here and not detract at all from the actors and actresses in this movie, because I don't think anybody fell short for acting.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'd like to
members
thank
of
the
the
Academy from the bottom
have
of my heart.
bereft me of all words.
I now have a new theory about how Marvel feels about their movies and their fans. I postulate Marvel has nothing but contempt for fans of their comics.
You are a plague, and we are the cure.
To take a character like the Mandarin, who take 9 out of 10 people on the street who know about the Iron Man mythos at all, and ask them who's the main bad guy to Iron Man, the answer is the Mandarin. He's the Joker of Iron Man's villains, the archenemy. And to not have him in the previous two, to have several subtle hints in there, and then now to pull this kind of bait and switch, where we don't see it, this character who's been begging to be brought to the silver screen, and to not only have him not be the bad guy, but for him to not be a bad guy at all, to make him this pathetic waste of a human being, it just screams of disliking the character and disliking anybody who is asking for it. When you combine that with things like the use of the Captain America shield in Iron Man 2,
There you go. And
They kind of poked fun at the speculating audience by saying, you thought that the Captain America shield in the background was going to be a big deal? Nah, it's just the thing he's going to use to level out his device. You speculate too much. We're slowly being punished by Marvel for wanting things that are in the comics when they're the people who are making comic book movies.
Who are they? If you had told me this before I saw this movie, I would say that you're being a little outlandish, that maybe they are trying their best to involve not only the comic book lovers in the audience, but also people that are there to see a movie, so they do have to have some sort of middle ground when you make a movie. Why did Tobey Maguire have natural web slingers? Because it served the purpose of the story, and it didn't really matter that they were natural, that they were organic, or that they were man-made, because it wasn't important to the story. It was just a small twerk, and it was just a small tweak. A twerk is something else. It's just a small tweak, and it's not a big deal.
Right.
But when you're talking about the Mandarin, I have to agree with Trevor. You're basically throwing all goodwill that you have towards the people that care about the Iron Man character and saying, go suck a dick.
You can go suck a fuck.
Oh, you want a Mandarin? Here's your fucking Mandarin.
And that, and I don't think that it's too outlandish to say that somebody at some point in the development process probably said, do you think that we should use the Mandarin as a bait and switch for this movie? And somebody else said, fuck him, whatever.
Who gives a shit?
Guns aren't for superheroes.
Nope. Guns are for action heroes. Specifically, people like John McClane or Riggs and Murtaugh.
Mm-hmm. Unless you're the Punisher.
Yeah.
Or Deadpool.
But they also had powers, though. Like,
right.
The Punisher had the power to be a fucking badass.
And more to the point, Iron Man doesn't use guns. War Machine uses guns.
Yeah, he's got, like, the shoulder cannons and shit.
But Iron Man has guns. Let me pose a question to you, audience. What sounds like a really exciting Iron Man weapon to see being used in a fight? Would it be A, a repulsor, B, a unibeam, or C, a common handgun? If you just said, wait, what? When I said C, you have a brain.
I am the smart. I am the smart.
Iron Man, or more importantly, Tony Stark, should never be walking around with a Glock in his hands, just capping bitches.
What did you just do?
It's just not what Tony or Iron Man do. It's not there. And more to the point, when you have the Iron Man suit at your disposal, as I would assume you do when you're making an Iron Man movie, why would you even be interested in trying to portray that on screen?
So to the extent that this movie actually succeeds not just as a superhero movie with iron suits, but as a thriller with real characters and real suspense, that's what I'm most proud of.
It's kind of interesting because I remember, Jake, as we got out of the theater, you said to me that this movie has redeemed the Whiplash's whip from
It's
Iron
true.
Man 2.
I always had a bitch with Whiplash because they could have had Crimson Dynamo. They could have had a number of other...
Titanium Man.
Yeah, a number of other Iron Man villains that are more like Iron Man or have Iron Man-like weapons. I guess it would have been kind of milquetoast considering what happened in the first movie. But then again, the whips seemed kind of weird. It seemed kind of like a weird thing. But I gladly take those in place of a gun right now. Mm-hmm. Like, those are fantasy weapons. Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous to have whips made out of electricity, but now that I'm thinking about it, it's kind of badass. And it was pretty badass. He chopped, like, cars in half and shit. All the bad guys do in this movie is melt stuff. Somehow they're able to paralyze people in their suits and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's dumb.
You're dumb.
We have S.H.I.E.L.D. now. The heroes are aware of each other. So... at one point in the movie, you wonder, why didn't Tony Stark call up S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Yeah, his base is destroyed, he doesn't have access to any working armors, but he's in an extremely dangerous situation.
Him calling up S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't very far-fetched, even if you look at the comic books, because at one point in the comic books, he's the leader of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right. Now, you could say that him calling up for assistance wouldn't make for a very interesting movie. And you're right. Having him just get on the phone and having the whole Mandarin Palace, raided by 1,000 different S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and just taken down wouldn't be a very exciting thing. But I think that would still have been a lot more exciting than seeing Tony Stark go home alone on the Mandarin.
Or even Captain America. Captain America is the Batman to Iron Man's Superman.
Right. He has a whole movie's worth of experience in raiding secret bases. Last but not least, we've discussed his role in this a little bit, some of the hallmarks of his movies that have made it in here, but I think one of the largest problems looming, if you could wrap everything up of what's wrong with this movie, is that it's a Shane Black movie.
I like that we've just sort of tried to juggle the balls a little.
It didn't start out that way. First 30 minutes, I was extremely satisfied with where it was going. It seemed like he was making a real effort to rein in his own personal movie fetishes and to make a Iron Man movie. And as time went on, it just started breaking down. You got buddy cop action, you got no armors, you got guns in hand, you get the standard Shane Black snarkiness and repertoire between your two mains.
Iron Man calls a little kid a pussy.
Yeah, I'll admit I laughed, but I also kind of made a face like, really? Like, Tony just called that kid a pussy?
Like, really?
Well,
and he says,
is that how they use their one swear for this PG-13?
You know, for kids.
Shane Black is really good at having everything fall to shit. He's very... He frames that up really well. When, even in the trailer, as you've probably seen, Iron Man gets pulled down underwater, and he's dragging his armor through the snow, and everything looks really dark and bleak. And that was kind of what the movie should have been, is Iron Man as seen through the eyes of Shane Black, as how his downfall and then his eventual rise back up to the greatness that he is.
Right.
And he doesn't really do that at all.
Yeah, unless Shane Black's vision of what Iron Man is superfluous and actually getting in the way of Tony kicking more ass with just a gun in hand versus his whole techno suit. Just call up Val Kilmer and make Kiss Kiss Bang Bang 2 if that's what you want, Shane. I won't begrudge you. I loved the first movie, and I bet I'd love that one too. But just stay away from my Iron Man.
Harry, I was thinking some more about this reality versus fiction.
Oh, is that a fact?
Yeah, like in the movies.
Overall, it did not impress. There were a lot of really obvious plot holes. There were a lot of really bad thematic changes from the first two, and the ending really sucked as well.
Hey, you gotta keep moving forward. That's the whole point of things. And thank you now, I appreciate it.
I would characterize this movie as going out to the bar and getting mistaken for a guy who said something to somebody's girlfriend, and all his pals take you outside and just start beating the shit out of you. And as their kicks start to slow and a wave of relief washes over your pained and broken body as you think maybe this ordeal is finally over, but then the kicks start coming again and you realize that it's not over by a long shot. That's what this movie is.
Yeah, that's a good story.
I don't know. For Jake and Trev Review Everything, I'm Jake.
I'm Trev. Thanks for watching.
So we're done with review, I guess.
Yeah. Truth be told, I don't even really want to go to the other universe anymore.
We were gonna get geared up for this awesome adventure, and then we saw Iron Man 3, and I don't want gear, even. I don't... Well, this is warm, but I'm gonna wear it because of that.
Okay, I get the feeling that if we wait this one out, this whole Evil Jake thing is just going to blow over.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's get our mopes out and mope up the floor and
ride our mopeds down to the free sadness store.
Yeah. Let's do it. Mope.
Hello? They're not here again.
Well, let's hope that they do the right thing. We can't make them do it.
No, and if they don't do it, then they were never worthy to be one of us to begin with.
Peanut butter disaster.
The tickets we've planted have done their job. We shouldn't hear for them.
for some time.
Oh, good. I'm worried though, because evil Josh seems to not be taking our orders to the letter.
No, he does have a history of not playing by the rules.
You set the house on fire!
Yeah, I wasn't expecting him to really do that. I thought it was just like a turn of phrase.
Oh well, we're almost done.
And then no one will stop us.